I do. Luda!
Yeah.
What's up, guys? On this week's episode of Homegrown with Halie, we're going to be talking about time management in homeschooling, because you do have the time to do cool things and homeschool. So that's what we're getting into. See you on the other side of the intro.
Take your blood and let it down, 'cause you can work wherever now.
What's up, guys? Welcome into the Work Wherever podcast. This is a podcast where we talk about AI, automation, the ability to work wherever so you can live every day like it is Saturday. We have 4 flavors of this podcast for those of you who are new. We have the Roy's Rants, which is me putting on my tinfoil hat, doing some solo work. We have the traditional, standardized podcast where I have a guest on and we ask them questions and nerd out. We have the Hotspot, which is Sydney and I, where we go through trending articles and news around remote work automation. There's been a lot of AI with that recently. And then we have Homegrown. And
That's
the Homegrown with Halie.
Yes.
That's my wife. And we talk about homeschooling. We talk about life as a remote individual, whether that is homeschooling, traveling. It's more of the what is it, pop culture? No, life, just lifestyle. It's a lifestyle podcast. Which, welcome in.
Thanks.
So you brought this topic of time management. You were like, let's do a podcast on time management.
Yeah.
So why?
Because I think that that's kind of the biggest obstacle a lot of people have when they're considering homeschooling is, I don't have the time to do that.
That's so much time.
Yeah.
I have to go to my yoga class, right?
Or who knows what
real
you're doing.
real world stuff. You got
Yeah.
real world stuff, and you got kids and multiple schedules that you got to manage, and there's sports, and there's yeah. I joke about you yoga people out there. Don't get offended.
Right. But so if you haven't already listened to our deschooling
Yeah,
episode, you want to go back and listen to that because this kind of
this
plays
piggybacks
off. Yeah. And so when you're thinking about what your school days are going to look like, well, one of the best things about homeschooling is that it's flexible.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe you choose like Saturday's a good day for you guys to school. So you include that in your week and you guys, don't do Monday. Or maybe you prefer to start school in the afternoon and, work in the morning. Or, you have to figure out what your day looks like and then how you can build school into it.
Right.
And one of the most influential books on me, aside from the Bible, is The 4-Hour School Day by Dorinda Wilson. I've read it a few times and it's great. She's a seasoned homeschool mom of I don't know how many, but she really wrote the book on the 4-hour school day and how you can structure your days to be flexible, be simple, and really be impactful.
So break that down. The 4-hour school day, because traditional school, institutionalized school is what, 8 hours?
I'm not sure.
7-8 hours. might be even longer than that, but those are the full, and so you don't actually learn for that entire.
Who knows? Yeah, you're in the class, you're in the
just 'cause
hallway.
you're at a physical building.
Kids are asking questions, or who knows?
So that's a common mistake or common misconception.
Right. It's you have to sit. You have to be schooling
the whole day.
Right.
And this book really breaks down that you don't have to. In fact, you can do it for 4 hours. Now, I've heard people who even go lower than 4 hours, and they're just trying to get, hey, we're going to do a couple subjects here and there. But the idea of the 4 hour is to say, look, they're not learning the entire 8 hours of the entire time they're at school anyway. So why do you feel like you have to?
Right. If you're having focused, dedicated time, I mean, yeah.
So what does that look like from a planning perspective?
Mm-hmm.
Because now we have deschooled, which you guys have. If you haven't listened to the deschooling episode, go back and listen to it so that we can pause this episode, go back to the deschooling, listen to that. You've now done your deschooling. You have chosen the frequency and the methods of which you're going to do that, and now we are planning and time management of the methodologies that we've chosen.
Yep.
So how do we go? What are we doing next?
We'll decide which subjects you're going to do every day. For us, it's reading, writing, and math, no matter what, every day. Other subjects such as history or science will be twice a week. or we will spend time like doing read alouds in a history book or a science book to fit in that way. But so decide what your non-negotiable subjects are, such as reading, writing, math. And then from there, determine how much time you really need to spend one-on-one with each child in those subjects. So as your kids get older, you really are just the facilitator. They are the learner who's owning their education. Like our oldest son, I provide him with all the resources that he needs. I lay out, like, he has a checklist that he has to get through every day. I call him his board, which is like, they're his bricks. And so then he knows what he has to do. He gets it done. I check what I need to. And for like every hour that he spends on school, like him and I only spend like 10 minutes together on, something, right?
Yeah.
But so then, that doesn't take much time, obviously, you're thinking about, right? And then for the younger ones, they really work best in like short increments. You take like 15, 20, 30 minutes in like the early grades and you're sitting down and you're just doing one-on-one like math lessons. It keeps their attention. It stays enjoyable. It's not like you're sitting there pulling teeth and they dread, oh, it's time for lessons. Oh no. Because we've done, had moments where it was that, and I don't want it to be that, right? As they get older, they'll have the ability to sit longer and focus longer. But when they're young, I really just want them to like enjoy coming over and sitting with me for like 30 minutes and going through their math or going through like their writing. So it doesn't,
we fill that time. So let's say that you start. How do we start the day? I know that you mentioned the board, but explain the board.
Okay, so their boards, I have our boards, and I can put up an example. It's like a very simple board.
Go to homegrownwithhalie.com. We'll post an example of what the board looks like, but break that down.
Yeah, so it's like a grid or a table, and like if you would imagine a table in a Word document, where on the left-hand side, the cells are all of the subjects, and then I have columns for each day, Monday through Friday, and then I just have spaces for me to write in, on each day what they're doing for each subject.
And they go and they look at the board and understand, okay, I know today is Tuesday, so I have to do.
Yes. Avery, totally 100%. Chase, totally 100%. Like he's in second grade and he is very like, this is what I have my board today. And then I highlight the ones that are, not independent. So the ones that you do with mom, right? So like, okay, read for 30 minutes. That's independent. That's not highlighted. But if it's like, read to mom,
right, then
I highlight it. So that way he knows that.
On you.
Yes. Yeah. And, it takes a while to like train them, into how to do things. So like, okay, set a timer, like find a quiet space, like when they're young, but they enjoy doing it. Like he takes his cat with him and like they go and he sits, he loves reading with her. Like he could read with her all day. But it's like not getting angry and like stressing out about things. It's like, okay, why are we doing this? We're doing this because we want you to like grow to be like a, well-rounded individual who like enjoys learning. And so you provide them like with their plan. Yeah. And they, have put it into action. Eleanor, she's our youngest. She definitely,
school aged.
Yeah, right. But I manage her board for her.
Okay.
I really, once they master reading, I mean,
it opens up.
What's like the phrases that like used to be on the billboards? It was like, I don't know, like if you can read, you can do anything, like encouraging literacy. Right. Maybe that was just in Baltimore, but like,
but it's true.
It's true, right? So like, it's amazing, like how much our middle son has grown, since he has been able to read. Like he wants to do so much on his own now with his schooling. He's so proud to be able to like do his work and help his little sister. Like he'll go over and he'll help her read her math word problems, and I'll come back in and she'll say, well, Chase helped me with this. He helped me read it. And
right. It's encouraging them to support one another.
Yes. Yeah. And like they don't always do that. Right. And I don't always ask them to, but sometimes
they have to be prompted, but they,
no, they don't have to be. But what I'm saying is, what I'm saying is that sometimes in school, like they surprise me about because he likes, to show that he's any opportunity he can to like show that he's the older sibling. It's like, he'll, oh yes, I'll read this for you.
Yes. Come here, bring it here.
Yes.
I will show you the
Yes.
way.
Exactly.
And then another thing, so in technology, so for those of you who don't know, Halie and I own a business together. We own Capital Presence, and Capital Presence is an IT implementation organization. We build automation and AI for businesses. And so we took a lot of the principles of SDLC, which if you don't know, SDLC is a software development lifecycle, and it has to do with agile methodology. And you can listen to my tinfoil hat episodes on this if you really want to nerd out with me on that, which it might help you, because some of the things that we do in terms of time management is actually brought from that, which in the tech world, we call them stand-ups, and we call them bricks, which you had mentioned bricks. And so bricks are our 5 mission critical tasks that we're going to do that day for our employees. That's where it started. We'd say, okay, what'd you do yesterday? What are you doing today? Do you have any roadblocks? Those are our stand-ups and how we implement bricks. And so your bricks are your 5 mission critical tasks.
Right.
And so
our kids have bricks.
our kids have bricks.
Yeah.
And then you guys don't call it stand-up. What do you call it?
Morning meeting with mom.
Morning meeting with mom. And so what do you do on that morning meeting with mom?
We go
and you have your, is it 5 ups? Is that what you call
I call them high fives.
High fives.
You call them
I always
5
get
ups.
that
I know,
messed
but
up.
you've been calling it 5 ups for like 3 years now, so I feel like you
know.
can't change it. The
I
kids, I
can't.
always like chuckle. But so now the boys, like Avery and Chase, our oldest, they swim 3 days a week, and so it makes our mornings like a little bit different because they don't get home till like 10:30, and by that time, our 3-year-old and our 6-year-old and I, we've already kind of spent a couple of hours going through some schooling. So like mainly reading is what we're doing.
You've already done the meeting with mom.
Yeah. And that's okay because it's flexible. Like, we have to be flexible. We have to be agile.
That's right.
But then, so the boys will come home and they get started on independent work. Right now because they have swim. So I just like to get them started on independent work. And then we start on focus lessons together after lunch because that's when our youngest son has his nap time. So you have to figure out how to work around your own schedule. Because I found for us, it was just too stressful for me to try to be doing focus time like with the kids in the first half of the day. Yeah.
Hitting everybody with blocks or getting people to go outside.
Right.
Or, yeah.
So if we have them, doing independent work in the morning, it's worked out. Yeah. And then they can bring any questions that they had. It's okay, well, just circle anything that you need help with. And then after lunch, we'll sit down and we can go over anything that you need help with. And we'll do our focus time together.
Another thing that I found interesting that we've started doing and building upon is not setting like we don't set school hours. Like we're not like, okay, in between this hour and that we have to be done by 2 or 3. And sometimes we do say we have to be done by certain times, but that's mainly because we have to go somewhere. Yeah. Like sports or have to go to but it's not like we're done with schooling.
So that's like another thing that like you just reminded me of. So leaving margin, right? So I know like some people really thrive on having like those time blocks, and like that's great if that's something that you thrive with. Like I do sometimes when my schedule allows for it, but otherwise like I really do leave margin. So if something I think, okay, this is going to take me 30 minutes, like I say like, this will take me an hour, just because then, if I'm up against that 30 minutes and I have to like switch gears right away, like it's just not gonna work. So I leave margin in areas where I can. Yeah.
And we've done things at night. We've done things at the dinner table.
Yeah.
We've done, so some of the things that we've done is at the dinner table, we have come together as a family and done like, which I'm sure Easter's coming up. We'll do Easter things together, I'm sure.
Easter things.
We did,
We've done the kids that we've done
Fat
Bible
Tuesday,
study.
we did Ash Wednesday, we did Bible studies at the dinner table together. Yeah. Now each kid has their own way of doing it, right? They each had their own individual things. Like our youngest school age and our youngest child didn't have the same types of things to do as the
And so oldest. I feel like I have to mention, so the Bible study that we have used that we really liked for all the different ages, it's from Not Consumed.
Okay.
And it's a homeschooling mom. She did a really awesome job of like creating Bible studies for the whole family. So like there's like the parent
Yeah, right.
book, and then depending on the children's age level, they have different books that go along with it.
Which is also how you've taught history.
Yeah.
To make sure that, so when we're talking about, since we're talking about time management, you have the independent work. So we have your high fives or 5-ups. Meet with mom in the morning to kind of go over the set expectations for the day. Not necessarily time block the day. Right. Set expectations for the day. Kids and I, we'd be at swim practice, or they're doing independent work in the morning, and then everybody comes together. When everybody comes together, you've taught group, because people might be like, well, what does that mean, that I have to teach everybody different because there are different levels? But typically we've taught one history.
Yeah. I love teaching history as a family.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, you can, right? With math, it would be detrimental to the older ones, right? To try to do that. But history is a family. So a lot of it is, we'll read about history on the timeline, and then depending on their age level is what extension work they'll get, right? So yeah. And
that helps with time management, because
we
can plan in areas there to say, okay, we're going to do this as a family. Independent work, we'll do this as a family. Then you'll go into reading, which we've read the Bible together.
We do lots of read alouds together.
Lots of read alouds.
Yeah.
And we typically do that at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Sometimes it moves around.
Well, it means, and at lunch I do read alouds, and at the end of the day, because lunchtime is an easy time when everyone's sitting, and I can just
quiet.
Well,
mostly
it's tough. With the 3-year-old.
Yeah.
He's a wild card.
He is a wild card for sure.
But I do like to read during lunch.
So what happens if you get to the end of the day and you haven't gotten to something?
I just push it. I mean, depending.
Push it to the next day?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't like to push it, and that's why.
It's not ideal.
No, and that's why I really am a firm believer of less is more, right? So if you put on your plate what that you'll get accomplished, write it in pencil, okay? Because if you write it, I love my fancy pens, and I definitely use my glitter gel pens in my planner. But I know that if I write it in pencil, it's just so much easier to go back and erase it and change it.
Right.
Especially when you're planning ahead.
Move it around.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Which also goes back to SDLC, Software Development Lifecycle. When you're doing agile planning, developers, you have tasks in 2-week sprints. And what happens at the end of those 2 weeks when you didn't get accomplished what it is that you thought you were going to get accomplished? It rolls to the next sprint.
Yeah, and really reevaluate, why did this not get accomplished after 2 weeks, right?
Exactly.
If it doesn't get accomplished in one day, okay, well maybe that's because I didn't leave enough margin. Maybe it's because I just overbooked us, right? But if something just keeps getting, that's why when we were doing history every day, and I was not getting to it every day because we have other things that we're doing, I'm like, well, why don't we just do history twice a week?
Right. And
then on the days when we're not doing formal lessons in history, let's read our living history book. So that they're still exposed to historical concepts.
Understanding it. You're not going to get time management done correctly the first time. Maybe you do. But more power to you.
Just do it.
But if you don't, it's not that big of a deal, because you're going to have to review and refine, which gets back to that deschooling episode that if you haven't listened to it, go back and listen to it, where we talked about refining and going back and doing a retrospective every 6 weeks to understand your methodologies, understand your philosophies, what you're doing. Time management plays into that.
Yeah.
Are we hitting everything? Is our day structured properly? Do we need to move anything around?
Well, and if sports with seasons, things change, right? So you have to.
Because swimming is coming to an end. You mentioned that we're swimming.
Yeah.
And that was a big thing.
Right.
We're about to have probably a 5-6 week break.
I'll have my mornings back with the kids. Right. And we'll be able to get back to our morning routines, which I did enjoy our morning routines.
Yeah, meet with mom is a fun time. Again, go brush your teeth, children. Do this, do that, right? That's our 5. What's the high 5? What is the high 5?
Make your bed, brush your teeth, breakfast, get dressed, morning meeting with mom.
And it brings structure to the morning.
It brings structure to the morning.
For sure.
And then normally, that's when we'd have the read aloud, and we would do a devotion in the morning together, all together.
Yeah. And
right
we
now
haven't
they've been
able
doing
to do that because of swimming.
Yeah. And so the devotion area has been lacking.
Yeah.
I still get more devotion time in with our oldest, which is important to me right now.
Yeah.
But yeah. So we'll get back to being able to do that every morning. And I like starting our day that way.
And part of that is to say that you understand the schedules, because right now we're in the spring schedule, or about to really dive into the spring schedule, whereas the winter we had swim, and then summer we'll again have swim.
Mm-hmm.
And then it gets really, summer for us is really crazy because we are a swimming family. So for that is what every morning at 8 o'clock goes basically from 8 to 10 every day. So that definitely changes things. And if you have an approach too, because I know some of you are like, whoa, wait a second, school during the summer? What do you mean?
We'll do math. Yeah, we'll do math, reading, and writing through the summer.
Why not?
Yeah.
Why do you need to necessarily take a break? And so oftentimes that people will say, well, I take a break during the summer so we can have time together as a family. But if you're a homeschooling family, you can have time together throughout the entire year.
Yeah.
You can take your vacations whenever you want.
Right. And they have plenty of time to be kids.
Right.
You know, if you are managing your routines correctly, it's not like they're,
we're
not
still at the
getting
pool
any free time.
More than, we're at the pool. We live at the pool, quite literally. And we still do school, not as much. We definitely pump the brakes a little bit.
Yes.
But we're still doing it.
Yes.
And that lends to the fall to say we don't have to
but that's our afternoon, like schooling, like our lessons in the summer we do in the afternoon. Like after we get back from the pool, we'll have lunch and then we'll sit down and we'll do some lessons.
Right. And it gets back into that every 6 weeks, every new season, constantly reevaluating where we're at, what we're doing, what's working, what's not working.
Right. But then it's like, not to interrupt you, but this is like when things are all going smoothly. Like, well, what if like something happens? Like there's a crisis, right? And like, someone gets sick or someone's in the hospital, and like I have friends who like has happened to, where they've had to like go and care for a sick parent. And so, like, what do you do in that kind of situation? Right. And I think that like what I've seen is that they will just scale back with their lessons. And then, look at what they can learn from just helping to support like a loved one who's going through. Yeah. So like the older ones who are able to continue with independent work, like during a crisis, like great. For the younger ones, they will be okay if you have to, take care of your mother.
Right.
Or like they'll be okay. They will get caught up very quickly. Like children are so resilient. So it's better for you to not feel burdened by like what society puts on us as parents for like our kids' education, and like just understand that.
That's a great point.
I feel like that it's really important to know that like we can talk about, oh yeah, this is great, we are flexible, we move around and like whatever, but like no, like there's times where I'm like crying in the closet.
Well, yeah, none of this
like,
is easy.
It's
right?
not. And like I have friends who like are like, my mom just moved in with us. She has cancer and I am her full-time care provider. And like, yeah, it's like real life happens,
right.
But like being able to include your children in real life, because one day the tables will be turned and maybe it's, them caring for you, what is life? I don't know. I feel like we're kind of going off the rails here, but
but that's because the point is that time management, the way you look at time management is important. It should be around how are we hitting the necessary things that we want to accomplish? What were those like mission critical subjects? Those ones that we said we wanted to get to.
Right.
But then it's also the understanding that every piece of your day and every piece of life is a learning opportunity.
Yes.
And that can be a field trip. You can go into, like, we have DC really close. And so, okay, hey, you know what? We're going to take it easy today. We had something happen this week. People were sick or whatever. Let's take it easy or whatever. So let's go into the city and go to a museum.
Run errands, talk to people, like talk to like community helpers, as they call them, you know? But it's truly, like, we went to the fire station, like, like fire station loves having people like go visit, like call them. I felt awkward calling the fire station, which I don't know why, because it's not like I dialed 911. I actually called like the fire station number. I'm like, this is kind of a weird question. I'm like, no. First thing I said was, this is not an emergency.
You're like, okay,
like,
yeah, we
all
know.
right. And I'm like, so I know this is kind of weird, but my son is really into fire trucks. Like, can we come visit? Oh yeah, just show up anytime. Now I don't know if your local fire department's like that, but my point is like, go ask questions. Like
Mhm.
we asked so many questions. Like when you go to the doctor, like just ask all sorts of questions, you know, and like
Mhm.
I mean, I don't know. As they get older, like they'll ask their own questions.
And they'll start to show interest in the areas of this of the community, and then you can build that time management and that learning experiences around their interests. Like
Yeah.
our oldest wants to be an entrepreneur, and our youngest school age wants to be a chef.
Mm-hmm.
I have a friend who's an entrepreneur. She owns a restaurant, and I've talked to her and been like, "Hey, would you mind if I brought my kids? We'll eat, and then if you could just give us a tour around the restaurant, we'll come at like a not a busy time,
Right.
you know, and you can give us a tour, talk about what you do, how you do it, show us around the restaurant."
Right.
I've even gone to restaurants that I have no ties to.
Yeah. And say,
And they
hey, can you
love
walk
it.
us through the
Yeah,
kitchen?
they love it.
Yeah. Right.
They love giving kids tours. The chefs love it.
Yeah, they do.
And that piques the interest into the children's
Mhm.
lives. It shows interest in what they show interest in.
Right. Yep.
It allows a learning opportunity and just a real, like, we were just out to dinner.
Yeah.
We were just out to, I don't even think it was a special occasion. We were just
No,
out to dinner.
We were just, yeah.
And they were like, "You want to see the kitchen?" And we're like,
Yeah.
they were like, "Yeah, come on back."
Right.
So it's just finding the opportunity to educate at all times. Time management is, it's not necessarily looking at when can we fit education into our lives, but how can we incorporate education into what we're doing.
Education is an atmosphere,
Right.
not an institution.
Exactly.
That's our motto.
Right. Education is the atmosphere.
Mhm.
Everything we do is a chance to learn.
Exactly.
Every piece of the day is education. School is a place. Education is an atmosphere.
Yeah.
That's the idea. I love it. All right. Well, that is the show today. Anything else you want to touch on for time management?
No,
You sure?
That's all.
Okay. Thanks for hanging out, guys. Make sure, if you guys are watching on YouTube, first off, we appreciate you very, very much. Very, 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 very much. But hit that like and subscribe. If you guys have any topics that you want to touch on, either on some of our more technical videos up there, our developer videos, or any of our Microsoft stuff, hit those comments in the video and we'll make sure that we answer them. If you guys have any homeschooling questions, first off, you can go to homegrownwithhalie.com. Halie is how you spell Halie. Homegrownwithhalie.com. Or just hit the comments below in these YouTube videos and we'll do a podcast on it. And hit the like and subscribe. We're putting out new videos. We are doing we're going to start doing podcasts twice a week now. Right now we're doing once a week. We are starting that push of twice a week. So we're putting out a lot more content for you guys. Thanks for listening. And until next time, see you.
Go outside.
Go outside. Yeah, until next time, go outside.
Hey there! Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications for all the latest videos from Capital Presence.